My name is Laura Bennett. I was born in Richmond, Virginia, the eldest child in a family where words like honor, reputation, and tradition were spoken more often than love, sorry, or I believe in you. My father, John Bennett, is a former U.S. Air Force colonel. Today, he's a state senator with a commanding name and an even more commanding presence. People respect him, fear him, quote him. He says all the right things, shakes hands, smiles for the cameras, and runs campaigns in support of family values. On paper, we were the perfect family, a postcard version of the American dream. Classic brick house with white columns, an American flag on the porch, Mom, a retired school teacher, my younger brother, a West Point graduate. And me, Laura, the shadow in the family portrait. You might think I'm exaggerating, that this is just some youthful rebellion against a strict father. But let me show you exactly how my reality sounded. From as early as I can remember, I was told I was not the way I should be. When I cried, my father said, "Stop acting like a girl." When I questioned him, "You're ungrateful. You shame this family." When I brought home good grades in literature and art, "That's not real. You need to study something that matters, not this artsy nonsense." He wanted me to go into the military, like him, or at least law school. But I knew that wasn't my path. I was drawn to documentaries, to photography, to street stories. By the age of 15, I was filming with an old Sony Handycam collecting footage of real life, talking to the homeless, to veterans, to refugees, to the very people he called background noise. I got accepted to NYU for film and media production. He told me, "If you want to be a disgrace, go do it far from here. I won't fund your stupidity." So I moved to New York. Alone. 2 suitcases, a waitressing job, and a rented room in Brooklyn for $1,200 a month. But you know what? I didn't complain. I didn't ask for a single dollar. Because I thought, if I can't earn love, maybe I can earn respect. But respect never came. Every Thanksgiving, every Christmas dinner, I'd come back home to Richmond, just hoping he might finally see me. That he'd ask, "What are you working on? What inspires you?" But the most I ever got was, "Still jobless? Still running around with those little cameras of yours?" And yet, I was filming. A lot. I made short films about Manhattan's street musicians. About women who survived abuse. One even got screened at Tribeca. But to him, just student nonsense. When my grandmother died, the one person in that family who truly loved me, he wouldn't even let me speak at her memorial. He said, "This isn't your moment. Not your moment. Not your home. Not your choice." Life in his world was like living under pressure, where every deviation from the script was a crime. Where family mattered as long as you played the role. He called it tough love. But it wasn't love. It was cruelty dressed up in discipline and wrapped in an American flag. I grew up in a house where emotions were weakness. Where silence was a virtue. Where the words, "I'm proud of you," were never said out loud. By the time I was 28, I'd already made peace with it. I accepted that I was the different one. That in our family album, I'd always be in the background holding a drink, with empty eyes and a fake smile. But everything changed one night. At his 60th birthday, big banquet hall in downtown Richmond. Hundreds of guests, news cameras, waiters in white gloves. I didn't want to go, but my mother insisted. "He's still your father, just show up, please." So I went, Saturday in a corner. Watched people call him a leader, a patriot, a pillar of values. Then he got up to speak. Under applause. Glass in hand. Smiling. He raised a toast and said, "My children are my greatest legacy. One serves his country. The other, well, every family makes mistakes, right? Hopefully, Laura will find herself someday. For now, she's our creative embarrassment." The room laughed. Some nervously, some loudly. And I just sat there. Until something in me snapped. I realized, he will never change. And I no longer had to be quiet. Until that moment, I tried to earn love. Now I decided to claim freedom. To prove that I wasn't the disgrace in this family. That the truth about us didn't need to be screamed. It just needed to be told. In the way I do best? Through images. Through voice. Through story. My story. And you will hear it. My father's birthday celebration was so grand it felt like an inauguration. A ballroom at a Richmond hotel. Gilded walls. Live jazz. Champagne bottles labeled Senator Bennett 60 and Unstoppable. Table cards printed with his own quotes. Yes, he loved the sound of his own words so much, he had them professionally designed. Each one bore the logo of his campaign. I wasn't planning to go, I wavered for weeks. But then, Mom called a week before the event and said, in a whisper, barely audible, "Just come." For me, he's not the same anymore. He's softer. Softer? That was laughable. My father never got softer, he just changed tactics. But I agreed, not out of hope, more like exhaustion. Sometimes it's easier to show up than to keep carrying guilt. I wore a simple black dress, nothing flashy, nothing provocative. Hair in a bun, barely any makeup. I just wanted to disappear in the crowd, get through it, be furniture. When I walked in, everything was exactly as I expected. Men in suits, his old Air Force buddies, party colleagues, golf club friends. My younger brother, Thomas Perfect Posture in full uniform, with his perfect wife by his side, straight out of Military Family Digest. People greeted me with polite awkwardness. "Oh, Laura, you made it. How's New York? You're still doing film, right?" The word film sounded like collecting trash. I smiled politely, as I was taught. Dad kept his distance, a simple nod, no hug, no good to see you. During dinner, there were speeches. First, from his old military friends. Then, political colleagues. All about strength, discipline, patriotism. Mom wiped away a tear. Not from joy, I knew that look. It was loyalty, trained over decades. And then his turn. He walked up to the stage to applause. Black tuxedo. Medals on the lapel, just like the portrait in their living room. He raised his glass, paused. "My family is my fortress. My pride. My legacy." People clapped. He continued. "Thomas, an officer, a patriot, a husband, a role model. And Laura. Well, Laura is special. Always searching for herself, sometimes a little too far." A ripple of nervous laughter moved through the crowd. He didn't stop. Sometimes God gives you children to test your strength. Laura is one of those tests. Creative, free-spirited, principled. But let's be honest, she didn't exactly choose the right path. Silence. A few chuckles. And then, with a little smirk, "Every family needs its black sheep. So the rest know what not to do." And the room laughed. Not loud and easy. Someone stared at their plate. Someone sipped their wine. Someone turned to me and said, I think that was a joke." And I sat there, feeling like I was 10 years old again. Like I'd broken a cup in the kitchen. And he was yelling. And Mom stayed silent. And I was thinking, I'm bad. I must be bad. But I wasn't 10 anymore. This time I stood up. I didn't say a word. I didn't cry. I just placed my napkin on the table and walked out. Someone behind me whispered, "Laura, wait." But I didn't turn around. Outside it was dark. The streetlights glowed orange just like in my childhood videos. I walked, and I could feel everything collapsing inside me, not into pain, but into resolve. That was the last time he would call me a disgrace. Because that night, I finally understood I'm not the disgrace. The disgrace was the silence he forced us all to live in. And now, I had a voice. A voice and a camera. And I was going to use them. This wasn't the beginning of a show. This was the beginning of the truth. I got home just before dawn. New York greeted me with icy wind and the damp scent of asphalt. I dragged my suitcase up the stairs, slid the key into the lock of my Brooklyn apartment, and for the first time in a long while, I felt something unfamiliar. Not home. Safe. There's a difference. A big one. When the door closed behind me, I dropped my coat on the floor and just sat down. Right there, on the kitchen tiles. No strength. No plan. Just stillness. The soft glow from the fridge lit the room like a nightlight. Everything looked the same, and yet nothing felt the same. My phone buzzed in my pocket. "Are you okay?" from Jess. We all saw it. He had no right. From Tara. "Wanna talk? Or just sit in silence?" from Liam. Tiny anchors pulling me back into reality. Into now. Until that night, I always told myself, that's just how he is. It's his style. Just his humor. I learned to live with it. Laughed when it hurt, swallowed it down when I wanted to scream. But on that ride back from Richmond, I saw it clearly for the first time. Every time I stayed silent, I validated him. Every quiet nod, every fake smile, every time I bit my tongue, it was an act of agreement. Like I was saying, yes, I am a disappointment. Yes, you're right. Yes, I'm not worthy. And until that night, that silence felt safe. Because if you agree, you're nothing. No one expects anything from you. No one can hurt you. But something snapped. And it wasn't rage. It wasn't revenge. It wasn't even defiance. It was exhaustion. Exhaustion from the lies. From the double life. From watching him be a hero in public and a tyrant at home. With a polished smile and a glass of scotch. I looked out the window at the orange glow of the street lamps, and I knew. If I stayed silent now, I'd never be able to look myself in the mirror again. Because this wasn't about payback. It was about truth. I pulled out my old laptop, opened a folder I'd never shown anyone. It was full of clips, audio, notes, observations. I didn't even remember why I started recording all of it. Maybe just to keep a part of myself. For myself. Conversations. His yelling. His life lessons. My attempts to explain how I felt. His laughter in response. He used to say, "You're too sensitive. You're imagining things. Remember, the world doesn't care about people like you." And I recorded it all. As if I knew one day those words would become something else. Not a weapon, but evidence. I opened the voice recorder. Hit record. And for the first time, I spoke out loud. My name is Laura Bennett. I grew up in a house where respect had to be scraped from stone. Where kindness was seen as weakness. Where truth was dangerous. And today, I'm here to tell you what it's like. I love to be the disgrace in a family full of heroes. I didn't know where it would lead. I just knew that silence was no longer an option. Because sometimes, staying quiet means betraying yourself. And when you spend years keeping your mouth shut to keep the peace, you wake up one day and realize you've lost your voice. And your story. Well, I'm done hiding. Not because I'm angry, but because I'm no longer afraid. Let this be the beginning. The beginning of the version of me that doesn't apologize for existing. That doesn't shrink. That doesn't wait for permission. That simply stands up and says, here's what really happened. This isn't revenge. This is freedom. I didn't want revenge. That's important to understand. I had no goal to destroy, shame, or ruin him. I wanted to show. To show what nobody usually sees. To show what emotional abuse really looks like when the lights are always on at home and everyone smiles at the family dinner table. To show what I had tried to forget for years. And what all that time lived on my hard drives, in my memory, in every restrained breath. I opened Premiere. I opened Audition. I opened my pain as a project. This is not a movie. This is a reconstruction of survival. I wrote in a note on the screen before editing. I picked the shots. Dad at a picnic, playing the generous family man. He hugs me near the grill, but if you look closely, his hand isn't holding me, it's hanging in the air. Another moment, he's giving a toast, everyone laughing. But behind the scenes, on the same footage, his voice saying, "You wore that dress again? You look like a waitress from a roadside diner." I recorded the voiceover. Calm, steady, no hysteria, no accusations. I was 6 when I realized Dad only smiled for others. 9 when I realized I wasn't the child he wanted. 12 when I decided to stay silent because it didn't matter anyway. And 26 when I started putting these pieces into one story. I didn't want to be a victim. I wanted to be the director. And I understood. This was his fear. Not a fight, not a scandal, not a shout in the face. Truth. Documentary truth. Clear, with dates, with times, with proof. The film started to take shape on its own. I didn't write a script, I followed my memory. I showed how he called me the queen of failures after graduation. How he gave me a finance book with a note, maybe this will help when you move out. How he looked through me when I said I wanted to be a filmmaker. Each video fragment was twofold. First him, in public. Strong, charming, a man of his word. Then him, at home, cynical, cold, almost mechanical. I named the film The Family Brand. Because our home was always a brand. We were told who to be, how to behave, what to post on Facebook. Dad the CEO, Mom PR director. We the kids, a storefront. But inside, toxic production. No quality guarantee. No love. In one episode I said, "This is not revenge, this is an archive. This is not accusation, this is reflection." I'm not filming Dad, I'm filming a model where Dad is always right and the daughter must earn his approval. The film was ready in 3 weeks. I watched it alone, with headphones. And for the first time I didn't cry. Because now the pain was not chaos. Now pain had structure. Editing, sound design, transitions. It became a form of truth that can't be dismissed with, "You made it all up." My voice was confident. I no longer trembled, no longer justified myself. This was not a scream, this was a firm full stop. You fear chaos? Number? You fear order. Because order will show who you really were. Not a father, not a hero. A man who wanted his children to be afraid. And I stopped being afraid. At the film's end, silence. Footage without sound. Family photos. My eyes in everyone looking away. And now, for the first time, I looked into the camera. In a shot, I filmed myself. And I said, "My name is Laura Gray. And this story is not about him. It's about those who stay silent for years because they're told, don't air the family's dirty laundry." But I aired it, because inside, there was no air left to breathe. That's when I realized, this is not the end. This is the beginning of the conversation. I didn't make a trailer. I didn't call journalists. I didn't write, "Like this, it's important." I just opened Facebook. Created a post. I never wanted to share this publicly, but today I do. This is a story I've lived with, and maybe you have too. Watch if you're ready. I uploaded the video, 46 minutes. No cuts, no effects. Just me, the archive, and the truth. I opened YouTube. Created the title, The Family Brand, a film I made about my father. Added the description. If you recognize yourself, you are not alone. Uploaded it, closed my laptop. Saturday on the floor. And waited. For the first half hour, nothing. A couple of views. One like. One of my old classmates messaged, "Wow, that hits hard." Then, after an hour, notifications started pouring in. Sarah Ramirez, my film professor from college, shared it. A public page called Daughters of Trauma shared it. And then the avalanche. I opened Facebook, my post in shares. Under it dozens, then hundreds of comments. This is about my father too. He was perfect for everyone, except us. You described my childhood, I'm crying. Thank you. I thought I was the only one. You're brave. I never dared say it. I scroll and my hands shake. Every comment like a scream from silence. Like someone held their breath for years and finally broke free because someone pressed post first. I look at YouTube. 20,000 views. In 2 hours, 80,000. The next day, 500,000. And not just numbers reactions. Someone records their reaction on TikTok. Someone writes, "This is the first story about family abuse without hysteria, just facts. And that's scarier." Mom messages me, "You posted it." Yes, I'm not hiding. Do you understand what this means? I do. And still I keep posting. Because for the first time in my life, I feel I'm not hiding. Not editing myself. Not choosing be quiet, it will get worse. It's already worse. Now only the truth. On the third day, NPR calls me for a podcast. Then BuzzFeed. Then someone from Netflix writes, "Can we discuss rights for adaptation?" I laugh. It's absurd. A week ago, I sat in the dark, afraid my father would see me. Now he saw. And with him 500,000 others. And you know what's interesting? My father is silent. No comments. No denials. No, how dare you? Silence. He always thought truth was what you shout loudest. But now he realizes truth is what you show. Without shouting. Without anger. Just facts, footage, memory. And I think I didn't accuse. I documented. I didn't destroy. I showed. And most importantly, I gave others words when they'd been silent for years. If you're reading this and it feels familiar, you're not broken. You just survived in a home where they called it love. And now you can call it what it really was. That's why I posted this film. Not for views. Not for revenge. For a simple miracle to be heard. And for the first time I was. And I was not alone. On the third day after posting, I received a letter. Not an email, a real one. Paper, in an envelope. Signed, Father. I think we need to talk. No cameras, no show, just you and me. I didn't know what to expect. But I went. Not because I was afraid, because I wasn't afraid anymore. We met at a cafe. His choice. A public place. He came in his usual look, confident, composed, wearing an expensive jacket. Saturday across from me, looked me in the eyes. "You staged a spectacle. You made me out to be a tyrant. You betrayed the family." I looked at him calmly. I didn't need approval anymore. So I said simply, "I didn't stage anything. I showed. You're not afraid of me. You're afraid of the camera that's no longer under your control. I didn't betray anyone. I walked out of a lie." He started raising his voice. People turned around. He wasn't used to rejection, especially in public. The next day brought a new wave. Relatives started messaging me. "Do you think you're a hero? You're just seeking revenge. Dad helped you all your life." Others said the opposite. "You said what we were afraid to say. I remember how he humiliated you. I was too scared to step in. You're strong, don't stop." The family split apart. Mom stayed silent. Her silence was louder than any scream. An interview request arrived from the New York Times. "We want to talk about your story. It's caused a public uproar." Then Vice. Then The Atlantic. Someone sent me a screenshot. Reddit opened a thread, "The Family Brand. Truth or manipulation?" 50,000 comments. They analyze me, argue, admire, or accuse. "I go out for coffee," the barista says. "Are you the one? I watched your film. It broke my heart." That same evening, an unknown number sends a voice message. "Enjoying your moment of fame, bitch? You set your own father up. If my kid did that, I'd deal with them." The pressure grows. From the light and from the shadows. The stage and the underground. Love and hate. And in that moment, I felt the weight of my truth for the first time. It no longer belonged only to me. It became a mirror. And everyone who looked into it saw something of their own. Some strength. Some pain. Some a threat to their image. And every night, I asked myself, maybe I should have stayed silent? Maybe I went too far? Maybe he's right and I'm the traitor? But then I watched my film again. Not for likes, not for defense. To remind myself, you didn't harm, you freed. Yourself and those too scared to take the first step. Truth is not triumph. Truth is pain plus light. And when you release it, it illuminates both face and scars. And people don't react to scars. They react to the light. It scares some. And it warms others. And I choose the latter. Because I'd rather be cursed for the truth than praised for silence. After the noise comes silence. And in that silence, you hear only yourself. I turned off notifications. Closed social media. Canceled interviews. Not because I was scared, but because I was exhausted. I thought I had won. But instead of relief came emptiness. You think telling the truth will make things easier. But it doesn't. You just stand naked before the world. I started doubting. Did it even matter? Maybe I should have just walked away, started over quietly, without the film? What if this was a mistake? I sat on the floor, beside the same laptop I had edited the video on. But now the screen was black. And inside me too. And then a letter came. From a woman I didn't know. From an address not in my contacts. Hello, my name is Marianne. I found your film by chance. A friend sent it to me. I have a daughter. She's 14. She lived in fear of her father. He's perfect to everyone else. A well-known doctor. She was afraid to say a single word. Me too. We watched your film together. And she said, "Mom, it's the same for us." Then, for the first time in 5 years, she hugged me. Thank you. You saved my daughter. Even if you feel alone now, you are not. We are with you. I couldn't hold back the tears. Not from pain. From the fact that the wall I broke down was someone else's prison too. My story was not just mine. And suddenly, I understood. Standing alone doesn't mean being lonely. It means being the first. The next day, I opened my inbox. Among all the letters was one titled, TEDx invites you to speak. At first, I wanted to say no. I'm not a speaker, not an actress. I'm just Laura, a person who spoke the truth. But then I thought, if this truth has already saved one girl, maybe it will inspire 1,000 more. I said yes. And here I am, backstage. A theater with 300 seats, cameras, lights, people. I'm not a performer, I'm a witness. I step onto the stage. Microphone, pause. And I say, you were taught that family is sacred. But if behind the door of sacredness there is pain, humiliation, and fear, then someone must call it what it really is. I tell my story. Not with accusations, but with the light that came after the darkness. Silence in the hall. Then tears. Then standing ovation. After the talk, a young man, about 20, approached me. He said, I thought all my life that I was an ungrateful son. Now I realize I was a survivor. Thank you for giving me that word. That's when I understood. Standing alone is a victory too. It's not about being strong. It's about being seen. So that someone watching from their own darkness can see your silhouette. And know there is a way. That pain is not a sentence. That silence is not a duty. That truth can free not only you, it can become a torch. And you hold it not for fame, but to pass it on. And in that truth, there is more power than in any revenge. More light than in any spotlight. More victory than in any I won. You just stand. Alive. Straight. Real. And sometimes that is enough. A red dot on the stage floor. A microphone, cameras, and me standing in front of a full house. People are waiting, but I don't rush to start. For the first time, I'm not telling someone else's story. I'm telling my own. No script, no excuses, no fear. I take a breath and say, on the day my father turned 60, he raised his glass, turned to the guests, and called me a disgrace. And you know what? That broke me. Because I was still trying to earn his love. Still hoping that one day he'd say, I'm proud of you. But instead he said, you're a disgrace. You let the family down, you're weak. And now, standing here, I want to answer. Not just for myself, but for everyone who was ever called a disgrace. I look out at the audience. People hold their breath. If you grew up in a home where love was a reward, where respect had to be earned, where sensitivity was called weakness, then maybe you know what it's like to feel wrong from the very start. As if just being yourself is already a crime. As if silence is the only way to survive. Pause. I look into someone's eyes in the front row. She's crying. I continue. But you know what I've realized? Being different is not a disgrace. Silencing yourself when you need to speak, that's disgrace. Supporting violence under the guise of tradition, that's disgrace. Pretending everything is fine when it hurts, that's the real disgrace. Sensitivity is strength. Being different is honesty. The courage to say no is maturity. The audience sits in complete silence. I step forward. The closing part? This microphone, it's not about fame. This stage, it's not about me. It's for all the disgraces who were ever broken. For girls, shamed for their dreams. For boys, forbidden to cry. For women called too loud, too soft, too direct. For everyone who was told, you let the family down. If you heard that, it means you're no longer silent. And if you're here, it means you are free. You are not a disgrace. You are living proof that truth can survive. And telling your story is not weakness, it's resistance, it's strength. I finish. Silence, the breath of the room. And suddenly a storm of applause. People stand up. Some hug each other. Some cry. Some just stand nodding. As if they too have said it through me. 2 days later, the video is uploaded online. It goes viral. 20 million views. Thousands of letters. I read one message. I was a disgrace too. Now I'm the founder of a charity. Thank you for reminding me. Just because we were broken doesn't mean we are broken. And in that moment, I don't feel alone anymore. Because I understand. I didn't just tell a story. I opened a door. And now others are coming through. After my TEDx talk, the news spread like wildfire. A feature in the local paper then reports on television. My father, a powerful figure in the party, felt the blow to his reputation. At first, quiet questions came from his circle. Then sharp reprimands from above. The party respects personal life, they said, but made it clear, scandals like this are unwanted. A couple of weeks later, he appeared on a television interview. Cameras, lights, questions, everyone waited for his version. He appeared on screen neat, confident, but with a hint of weariness. The first thing he said, "My daughter was misunderstood. My words were taken out of context. Laura is a wonderful person, and I'm proud of her." The room was silent. I watched the screen, feeling something inside tighten and relax at the same time. He tried to soften the edges, but it was too late. At that moment, I decided, silence is the best answer. I won't engage in public battles. I won't stoop to arguments or justifications. My silence is my strength. It's a sign that my story speaks for itself. Sometimes words only make things worse, and silence becomes the loudest statement. The audience has made their choice. And so have I. Now I am free. And that is the true ending. After all those trials and public storms, Laura received an unexpected offer. A major film studio wanted to make a full-length documentary about toxic parents and healing through truth. Her story was no longer just a family tale, it had become a movement, inspiring thousands. Now, Laura was no longer just the girl everyone had turned away from. She had become a voice for those still afraid to speak out. Her words and experiences became a beacon for many seeking a way out of their family secrets and pain. In her final monologue, Laura spoke directly to the audience. My voice was silenced since childhood. For many years, I tried to stay quiet, to hide the truth. But now it speaks. I don't want revenge. I don't want destruction. I want no one to ever be ashamed of their truth again. So that everyone can say, I am not a disgrace. I am the truth. The camera slowly pulls back. We see Laura focused, working on the script for her new film. Sunlight softly fills the room, reflecting in her eyes. For the first time, a genuine smile appears on her face, a smile of freedom and inner peace. The story had ended. But a new chapter had begun for her and for everyone who heard her voice.